Have you ever had a moment where something just felt off? Like the world was moving towards something big, but you couldn't quite put your finger on it? It's that strange feeling in the air, like the calm before a storm. What if I told you that two men, separated by centuries and continents, might have already seen what's coming? Nostradamus, the French seer of the 16th century, and Siener van Rensburg, the Boer prophet from South Africa, both spoke of wars, disasters, and the fall of great nations. And here's the kicker. Much of what they predicted seems to be unfolding right now. Before we speculate any further, please like this video and subscribe to this channel. It really helps us out. Please leave a comment. Let's talk about war first. Nostradamus wrote in his cryptic quatrains about a great empire from the West being torn apart. Some say this referred to Britain in the days of its colonial power, but others argue it fits America far too well. America, the superpower of the 20th and early 21st century, is showing signs of internal collapse. Van Rensburg foresaw the decline of the United States too, warning of great chaos and a leader who would accelerate its downfall. Some believe this could have been Barack Obama, who, despite his global popularity, oversaw a deeply divided America. Others say the real fulfillment is still to come, that America's final days will be marked by economic ruin, internal strife, and perhaps even war on its own soil. Look at the riots, the political hatred, the debt crisis. Doesn't it seem like something is cracking beneath the surface? Then there's Russia. Nostradamus wrote about the king of the north rising in power, and Van Rensburg had multiple visions of Russia playing a major role in a future war. Let's not forget that for decades, Russia and the West have been locked in a silent battle of power. But now things aren't so silent anymore. Russia's invasion of Ukraine might just be the first domino to fall. What if Russia doesn't stop there? What if Europe, as Van Rensburg saw, finds itself in a war where Germany once again becomes a battlefield? That might sound impossible, but so did World War II before it happened. Speaking of Germany, Van Rensburg predicted that the country would turn against the West. Right now, Germany is still part of NATO, still part of the European Union, but there are cracks forming. Economic struggles, energy crises, and dissatisfaction with Western leadership could push Germany into a different path. And if that happens, could we see an alliance with Russia? A Europe that turns away from America? That would change the entire balance of power in the world. And then we have China. Nostradamus hinted at an Eastern power rising to dominance, and Van Rensburg foresaw a time when China would take advantage of global chaos to expand its influence. Look around. China's economy is growing, its military strength is rising, and it has already begun reshaping global politics. Could we be seeing the first steps towards this prophecy coming true? Some believe that China will move to take Taiwan soon, which could spark a war involving the United States. What happens then? Does America still have the strength to fight a war on the other side of the world, especially with its own internal struggles? Van Rensburg was deeply focused on South Africa, and some of his most chilling predictions were about the future of the country. He saw the ANC losing power, the country descending into an almost ungovernable state, and eventually, a new Boer nation rising from the ashes. Think about it. The ANC is weaker than it has ever been. Corruption scandals have eaten away at its credibility, and protests and unrest are becoming more common. Is South Africa on the brink of something major? And if so, who will rise to take control? Both Nostradamus and Van Rensburg also warned of disasters, earthquakes, floods, fires, and other natural events that would mark the beginning of great changes. Just look at the world today. Record-breaking heat waves, devastating earthquakes, tsunamis, and storms that seem to grow stronger every year. Van Rensburg saw a time when South Africa would be struck by a great drought, followed by a period of violent storms and flooding. Some believe that time is already here. If we take their prophecies at face value, what does that mean for the future? Are we truly heading for another world war? Will South Africa see a dramatic shift in power? Will America collapse under its own weight? And what of Russia and China? Are they about to reshape the world order in ways we can't yet fully grasp? And here's where it gets even more interesting. How do these prophecies line up with the Bible? The book of Revelation speaks of wars, disasters, and the rise of new powers before the end times. It warns of nations turning against each other, of economic collapse, of leaders who will deceive the world. Ezekiel speaks of a great war led by the nation of the north. Russia, perhaps? Matthew 24 describes a world in turmoil. Earthquakes, famine, wars, the collapse of mighty nations, the parallels are striking. Of course, some people will dismiss all of this as coincidence. They'll say Nostradamus was too vague. Van Rensburg was just a nationalist dreaming of a future that suited his people, and the Bible is open to too much interpretation. But what if they weren't? What if the reason we recognize these patterns is because we are living through them? We like to believe that history is random, that the world moves forward in unpredictable ways. But what if the future has already been written? What if, just like Van Rensburg saw visions of the Anglo-Boer War before it happened, and Nostradamus seemed to predict Hitler's rise, we are now standing at the edge of another great fulfillment? It's an unsettling thought. But then again, reality often is. And as we move forward, as wars brew, economies falter, and disasters increase, maybe we should start paying closer attention to what these men said. Because if even a fraction of their visions were true, then the world we know today is not the world we will see tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe.